What is going on, Governors? Chisgule here, and today we're going to do a commander guide on Takeda. This commander looks interesting. I'm actually on the fence on how amazing they will or will not be, but let's break them down. We're going to review the skills, the talents, how you unlock them, and, well, which pairings would be best based on what we're seeing so far. And by the way, we still have the Takeda wheel active right now, so at the tail end of this video, we're going to spin that wheel 60 times and see how many sculptures we get. If you like Rise of Kingdoms videos, where we review literally every single commander in the game, then you should like and subscribe. We've got a legendary tier list that comes out regularly, and we always review new commanders that come into Rise of Kingdoms. Let's get started. The skills are interesting on this commander. It is a versatility commander, which means there are 4 skills that are good in the open field, which is an area where we find ourselves spending a lot of time. Let's get a look at those specific skills. The active skill makes it so that the enemy is debuffed for 4 seconds, and each time that target receives a normal attack, there's a 50% chance to receive an additional 50% normal attack damage. And this effect can only trigger once every 2 seconds, so at best, this triggers twice while the debuff is active. This is the reason why I am skeptical about this commander, is that this active skill seems extremely underpowered to me. And the reason that that is the case is that usually buffs that improve damage are additive rather than multiplicative. If they were multiplicative, that would mean that every, percent boost you get to normal attack would be really, really crazy good. I don't think that's the case here, and I'm not particularly excited about this active skill. Let's continue on to the second skill, Swift as the Wind. Increase cavalry units attack by 40%. That is insane. That is a huge, unbelievable amount of attack boost. It's honestly staggering. It's shocking. If we compare for just a moment to Cao Cao's expertise skill, they increase cavalry attack by 25%. This is the expertise skill. And that's so strong that they're like, but we need to give you a downside. We're going to decrease your defense by 10%. Okay? That is insane. 40% attack is really good. So perhaps we're making up for the active skill not being as, in my opinion, amazing by virtue of having a second skill that is kind of ridiculous because there's more. The second half of this makes it so that normal attacks have a 10% chance to trigger an increase in march speed by an upwards of 30% for 3 seconds. This basically makes it so that it's very hard for targets to be able to run away from you. This isn't something you would use to run away from someone, probably. I mean, like, maybe you happen to run when this happens to have triggered from a normal attack. But if you're running away from somebody, you're not doing your normal attacks. So this really is all about being able to chase people down and make it so they can't escape. Let's go on. The Gentle as the Forest, and I love that I can pronounce all of these, right? Gentle as the Forest makes it so that for 4 seconds after using Fierce as Fire, that is the active skill. So whenever the active skill goes off for 4 seconds, you heal a portion of the slightly wounded units, 250 healing factor every second. So it's a total of 1,000 healing factor over the course of 4 seconds, which again is relatively strong compared to what we've seen on other commanders. If we just baseline against Freddy and we look at his second skill, we have a healing factor of 1,000 here that triggers on a 10% proc. Well, guess what? I'm going to make the argument that what we've got on our legendary commander over here, Takeda, this is way better. This is way better. It's the same healing factor, but with a rage engine, you can go way faster, and we'll talk about rage engines in a moment. The second portion of this, when the army led by this commander contains only cavalry, increase defense by 40%. We have here an army that is going to hit really hard and be really, really tanky, except their active skill is pretty lackluster. Let's continue on. Immovable as the mountain. Skill damage against troops led by Takeda is reduced by an upwards of 5%. So we're making a tanky army here, and there's more. When taking damage, there is a 10% chance to reduce normal attack damage taken and counterattack damage taken by 25%. That is huge. Counterattack damage taken is not that big a deal. But normal attack damage taken is a big deal, because when you're hitting a target and you have 5 armies swarming you, you're now reducing the damage that all 5 of those targets are dealing to you. And that is a really big deal. Reducing the normal attack damage dealt to you is huge anti-swarm technology. This commander with 40% defense and the 4th skill, offering a lot of tankiness, is very, very tanky. We're going to talk about that more, and that's going to be a point of emphasis in this video. Continuing on, the expertise skill. Well, now we have one I can't pronounce. Deal an extra 30% normal attack damage to enemies who have been debuffed by fierce as the fire. So, for the 4 seconds that this is active, you're going to be dealing 30% more damage. I don't read this as soon as you've debuffed them once with fierce as the fire, they are always taking 30% more normal attack damage. I don't think that's how that works. I think you deal 30% normal attack damage extra to an enemy that has fierce as the fire applied to them, which, guess what? You're going to really want a rage engine to drive this commander, and that is going to profoundly limit the pairing options that I would recommend for this commander. Let's talk for a moment about the talents, because this is a mobility commander, which is kind of unusual. It's a cavalry, versatility, mobility commander. Now, I'm only going to talk about the versatility tree for a moment, because I honestly find it a little bit baffling what is contained within this tree. I would recommend it for basically no use by any commander at all. So we're actually going to look for builds at our Cao Cao, because I've got Cao Cao at level 60, and I can show you the builds I would recommend. There's only really 2 with some slight variations for Takeda, if you're using Takeda as the primary. As a reminder, when you use a commander, if they are the primary commander, their skills, their equipment, and their talents apply. If they're a secondary commander, and in my opinion, Takeda should be a secondary commander, only the skills apply. Only skills apply for the secondary commander, not equipment, not talents. So if you were using Takeda as the primary, here are the 2 builds I would recommend. First is your general battling build. This, I think, is probably, of the 2 builds I've prepared, the better one. It's all-purpose, smash and stuff. We did pick up Hasty Departure for the 60% extra move speed for 10 seconds when you leave a structure, so that you can use it during Mighty Governor and go wreck people. There was March Speed that we left on the table, but we did pick up some of that March Speed over here, another 6%, so you are going to be moving pretty darn quickly with this build. Worth calling attention that Rallying Cry is going to increase your normal attack damage dealt as well, so this 15% attack elevation is decent, although in my opinion, not as good as it could be if you had a high rage generating combination that could fire off a high punch active skill during the 10-second window. And we did get Undying Fury for the extra rage gen. We left Equestrian Excellence aside. We didn't pick this up. Normal troop attacks have a 10% chance to increase your march speed. Well, guess what? We've already got a second skill on this commander that does something similar. I think they would stack, which would be pretty powerful, but I don't think you need it. And we also left Swiftness on the table. When you're getting attacked, you get a bit more march speed, which honestly, like, if you're trying to run away, you're probably just wrecked anyways. There is a chance with Hasty Departure you could get away if you could find a resource node. So slam dunk, this is the build I would recommend for Takeda, using cavalry and mobility. And again, we're using our Cao Cao to show this because he's level 60, so we can play around with builds. The other build that we think is kind of interesting is this mobility build, and there is some options for what you can do here. We tried to maximize our march speed, and this is a Mighty Governor, go wreck farmers sort of a build if you're using Takeda as a primary. And again, I think there are better commanders to invest in as a primary commander if that's the direction that you're trying to go. So if you were using Takeda as the primary, we maxed out the mobility tree to get that extra move speed when you are not in combat, and we sort of make up for that. We make up for the fact that we're going to have decreased move speed in combat from the second skill, which is going to make it easier to chase people down with that 10% chance to increase your march speed by 30%. We also this time did pick up swiftness. This is something you could swap around if you wanted to use somewhere else in the tree, and I'll show where I think that should be. Swiftness is making it so that when you're hit with an active skill, you're going to increase your march speed by 15% for 5 seconds. In Mighty Governor, if you want to just wreck farmers and then get away, this might be sort of helpful if you're getting chased down. The other option that you could use to chase other people down more effectively is Equestrian Excellence, 10% chance to increase your march speed by 50% for the next 2 seconds. Did I say 50? I meant 15. Whatever. We got this. We got this. I have baby brain. Have I slept? No. Does sleep matter? No. Continuing on. You could instead put these 3 points from swiftness into Emblazoned Shield to reduce the skill damage that you're taking even further. But the whole point of this build is that you're not trying to stay toe-to-toe with real armies. You're running around, smashing a farming army, moving to the next, smashing a farming army, moving to the next, using resource nodes to get around. For that reason, we grabbed the march speed over here, the march speed over here, and the march speed over here. So we tried to maximize that march speed for your full cavalry march. That would be my recommendation if you're trying to do some crazy stuff with Takeda as a primary for Mighty Governor. And again, I think he should remain a secondary commander. Now, if we go back to Takeda, this commander is currently only available from the Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune is the only place you can get them, and then you can use your universal sculptures to skill them up even further. My recommendation would be to unlock this commander for sure, to have them available in your arsenal if you ever do want to invest in them. And from there, you've got choices to make. As you skill up this commander, my recommendation would be to max the first skill. You always want to max your active skill, even though I find this active skill very unimpressive. Maybe when I actually max it out and battle test a bit, I'll be more impressed. Then I would max the second skill. So take this commander to 5, 0, 0, 0. Then go to 5, 5, 1, 1. So max the first skill, max the second skill. That is because as this skill increases in level, you get disproportionate benefit. So you go from 10 to 15 attack bonus, which is a 5% gain. Then you go from 15 to 20, which is a 5% gain. But then you go from 20 to 30 and 30 to 40. That's a 10% boost for those last 2 levels in your attack. That's huge gains. Go to 5, then you can unlock the next 2 skills. And I think that's totally fine. I think anything, you could go further into like 5, 5, 5, 1. I just don't see a need to do that though. There is a slight increase in the healing factor benefit that you're getting at the upper tier of Gentle as the Forest. So it goes from 200 to 250, which is a gain of 50 points. The healing factor is gaining by 30 points from level 1 to 2, 30 points from 2 to 3, 40 points from 3 to 4, and 50 points from 4 to 5. I honestly think that's a micro optimization you don't need to think about too much. Take them to 5, 5, 1, 1, and start using them. Now let's do my favorite part, which is the commander pairings. And this commander, it's a lot easier to do the pairings because you are going to want to have all cavalry. Like, look, 40% defense is just busted. You want all cavalry, okay? You really want all cavalry. So what does that mean for commander options? There is Cao Cao as an option. I like that Cao Cao also has healing. I like that Cao Cao also is restoring rage. I think it's a decent pairing. And I also think it's decent because Cao Cao increases attack even further, which means normal attacks are going to benefit from that flat attack boost. I think it's a solid pairing. I just wish that there was more of a rage engine here, and there isn't one, so I think we could do much better. Let's continue on. Minamoto is the next legendary I would consider, and you'd probably want to use Takeda as the secondary, leveraging the skill tree to get Rejuvenate, probably still even leveraging the skill tree to get Feral Nature, but you could use the build I'm using currently, and I think that would be totally fine as a build for this commander to use with Takeda. The reason that I struggle a little bit with the skill tree is that there are several things here that make it so that the secondary commander does more active skill damage. Well, Takeda just does normal attack damage. He applies a debuff. So some of these talent points will be wasted. This would be a fine build, a build that goes all the way to max out. The skill tree could be fine. I think Minamoto is an okay pairing, but we can do much better. Continuing on to our next cavalry commander, there is Khan. Now, Khan has the rage engine that we wanted. Why, again, do we want a rage engine with Takeda? The more we apply this debuff, the more healing that we're getting, because the healing is tied to the debuff being applied, and the more our normal attack damage is going to be elevated. So we want to get to as close to 100% uptime as we possibly can on that debuff. So I think that Khan is an interesting choice in that the active skill rage requirement is lower, which means you're going to fire off those active skills more frequently. It's 950 instead of 1,000. You can see that in the red text over here. In addition, he's going to reduce the rage cost by 100. And the thing that I don't love here is that while this fourth skill is generating rage, which is great, he's also increasing your skill damage, which isn't going to benefit you at all with a Takeda secondary. I think Khan Takeda is probably my number 2 or 3 pick here. It's probably my number 2 or 3 pick as a pairing. I think it is solid. Let's go with number 3 for now. My number 2 pick, possibly my number 1 pick, is going to be Saladin. This will make you the tankiest cavalry army pairing in the game. From the third skill of from Saladin, using Saladin as a primary, you also get loose formation, skill damage taken reduction. You also get emergency protection, skill damage taken reduction. You get emblazoned shield, which further reduces the skill damage that you take. Do you see a trend here? You also are generating unbelievable amounts of rage with rejuvenate from the support tree, 150 rage per active skill use. So the primary gives you 150 rage, then the secondary gives you 150 rage. And you could put points into Undying Fury to get even more rage gen rolling. I love this pairing because the rage engine is super real. Saladin's talent trees don't care about active skill damage dealt, which means the fact that Takeda is only helping you with normal attack damage is totally fine, and your uptime on your debuff is going to be really good for Takeda. This is my number 1 or number 2 pairing. The other commander that we need to seriously consider here is going to be Attila. Now, these two commanders, Attila and Takeda, were released at the same time, so there's supposed to be a match made in heaven. The problem is that Attila doesn't have the kind of rage gen that I would want for the Fire and Ice debuff on Takeda to have the kind of uptime I want to see, which influences the amount of normal attack damage you're getting from Takeda, which influences, well, that's if you have the expertise skill, which also influences the amount of healing you're getting from Takeda. So I'm on the fence about Attila being the most optimal pairing. I want to see it in action first. Attila is going to elevate your normal attack damage. He is going to make it so you take and deal less skill damage, which, yeah, Takeda doesn't care about skill damage. He's not dealing active skill damage, which is totally fine. And the Battle of the Catalonian Plains makes it so that occasionally you'll do a burst of extra damage. You're getting some resiliency against silence, and again, you are increasing your damage by 20% against marches that are reduced by 50%. I think Attila is a fine pairing, but I would put him at like number 2. My top 3 picks here are going to be Saladin, then Attila, then Khan, and then I would look at Julius Caesar. Now, this is kind of interesting because Julius Caesar doesn't care about active skill damage. He is going to elevate attack and damage by a solid amount for 5 seconds, which is a big deal. I would love if there was more rage generation on Julius Caesar, but I do think that a Julius Caesar primary with a Takeda secondary is a pretty decent pickup. Totally worth considering, and I would love to test that and see how it goes. I would not really pair with Freddy, even though he doesn't exactly care about the troop type, because He's got the skill tree, and for the same reason, I didn't find that very exciting on Minamoto. I don't find it all that exciting with Freddy. It is decent, but I'm not in love with that pairing. Continuing on now to the epic commanders that you could pair with. Weirdly enough, Sun Tzu would be kind of interesting to generate a lot of rage, but I don't love it. You could use a Scipio as kind of like a mini Julius Caesar. It is letting you bring more troops, which is going to elevate your normal attack damage. I think it's decent, but not amazing. You could pair with Boudica for the rage engine, but I don't love it. You've got to go full skill tree. Pelagius is where things start to get interesting. Pelagius you would use instead of Minamoto. Instead of possibly a Cao Cao, if those were commanders you didn't have, this is who you use. And Pelagius is amazing. The rage generation here is serious. 100 rage per, well, for his active skill being used. He's got some healing, which will pair really nicely with Takeda's healing and the tankiness that Takeda's offering. And the 30% of stats is fierce. 15% attack and 15% defense is no joke. This is where I would be looking at the epic tier to pair with Takeda. Again, Pelagius primary, Takeda secondary. There are a couple other commanders you could consider. I don't like Osman for the same reason that I don't like Freddy. I do, however, like Baibars for the AoE that he's offering, but in general, I think it's just an okay pairing. Like, I don't think there's particular synergy here with Takeda, so I don't know that I could recommend it too highly. I actually, in some ways, prefer Belisarius because it is reducing the defense of the target for a couple seconds, which is going to make it so your normal attacks do more damage, which, you know, Takeda's on that plan. Otherwise, I'm also really not in love with Belisarius as a pick. Worth mentioning that the fourth skill makes it so that you'll do elevated damage when you're below 50% strength, which will apply to the normal attacks, which is good. So I think I do prefer Belisarius to Baibars, but overall, Pelagius will be my number one epic pick. And I realize now, there is one more epic we need to talk about. Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc is a really interesting pick for the same reason that Saladin is an interesting pick. Because in the talents, you can get Rejuvenate, you can get all that emergency protection and loose formation, skill, damage taken, reduction. You can even run in and grab counterattack, so whenever you're getting healed, you're elevating your own attack. I would do that as well on Saladin for sure if you're using Takeda as the secondary. But Joan of Arc has her own healing too. So Joan of Arc is an amazing pairing at the epic tier. She might end up actually being the number one pick. So it's between our Joan of Arc and Pelagius. I want to believe that Pelagius is better, but it might honestly just be Joan of Arc. Here's why. Joan of Arc, although she doesn't have the extra rage gen from the first skill like Pelagius does, she actually does elevate rage generation. So it's not immediate 100 like you get from Pelagius, but you're getting 200 rage over the course of 4 seconds. Gosh darn it. The epic you should use is Joan of Arc. Number one epic pick is Joan of Arc. Number two epic pick is Pelagius. I've talked myself into it. That's what I would do. There you have it. Overall, I think Takeda is a solid commander, and I probably will expertise him over time, but we will see. I'm eager to play around with that more and to expertise this commander, and to that end, my friends, it's wheel time. The Wheel of Fortune. Let's rock this thing. We did okay on the first day. We did just okay. I wasn't in love with the outcomes, but they were fine. We didn't get the 8 spot on this wheel. And by the way, if you're interested in a video where we review the probability of getting things on this wheel, check out a card I'll put up in the top. I review in depth the odds of getting value in this wheel, and in general, you are getting really good value when you spin a wheel that's focused on a specific commander, if of course you're going to use that commander, obviously. So we're rocking this out now, and we're going to spin this wheel past 100. This was a great spin. Love everything that's happening here except the research speed ups. And we now unlock extra value at the 70 mark. 10 universal legendary commander sculptures seems really good to me. And we're going to keep on spinning. We are going to keep on spinning. Oh, we were so close to the 8 spot. We were so close, yet so far. Getting those legendary commander sculptures. So far, these spins have actually been pretty solid. Pretty solid all around. 2 more legendary commander sculptures is exactly what we want to see. Keep this going now. Grabbing more goodies. More legendary commander sculptures. Love it. Boom. Even a universal pickup there, which is great. I feel really good about that. I'm not sure where I'm going to be using my universals next. I might just have to snap expertise Wu Zetian if she does show up in a card king. That's going to be another 3 weeks from now, though. So I guess that'll be like smack dab in the middle of KVK. We'll see. We'll see where that ends up going. I also kind of wonder when the next season of Osiris League is going to begin. I'm pretty curious for that. The Osiris League was a ton of fun to play in. Really enjoyed that. Our ARC team is coming together pretty well. We've got, from the time of this video, only a couple days before the Kingdom locks for KVK. So if you want to get into the Kingdom, boy, now or never is the time. 2 more legendary commander sculptures there, by the way. Continuing to spin. Boom, more legendary commander sculptures. Ooh, yes, and a universal. Dude, we're doing great here. And another legendary commander sculpture. Holy moly. Training speed ups and, okay, wood. That was a really great spin. Except for the wood. That was a really great spin. We're going to keep it going. We see here the odds playing out slightly in our favor. We have, on occasion, gotten the bad end of odds here for spinning the wheel, but, you know, it's a game of chance, so that's going to happen. Another universal legendary commander sculpture. And another Takeda. Holy jeez. So far, so good. And now, at the upper end of this, bada boom, we claim 15 more Takeda sculptures. For this to be really gangbuster, we seriously need to land on the 8 spot. What I will call out is that there is theoretically a 2% chance to land on that 8 spot. We should have landed twice in our 120 plus spins. Actually, we should have landed twice already, and we've landed 0 times, which is kind of unfortunate. So perhaps the odds are not so in our favor. They're not so in our favor as I would have thought. That 2% is feeling like a overstatement of how frequently it lands. I'm sure it's right. It's just probability, you know? Just because we haven't landed on it doesn't mean we will land on it. That's not how that works. But there is a 2% chance. Maybe they're rounding up. Let's keep going here. Wheel of Fortune. 10 more spins. And then we'll go apply the skills. And then we'll wrap this darn thing up. So here we go. We got some food. And Universal Legendary Commander Sculpture. I mean, I'm still getting value, right? Like, I'm still getting really great value here. I guess the crazy disproportionate value is when you land on an 8 spot even once. Hasn't happened yet for me. Hasn't happened yet. I thought that was going there. It was so close. All right. Well, as we do our final spins on this particular wheel, boom. We'll have one more day of this. I'll probably put the video of that on my channel tomorrow. We can drop some skills into Takeda now. Let's see how far we can get. We get to level 3, level 4, and bada boom, level 5. We're not going to get enough sculptures probably to level this up any further. I know some folks in my alliance after just the first 2 days are already at 5-2. So maybe I'm a little under the curve here. We are up to 713 of those universal legendary commander sculptures, which I feel good about. I feel real good about. We'll see where those end up. So if you enjoyed this commander guide and spinning the wheel, please do like and subscribe. What do you think about this commander? Are they going to be good? What am I missing here? Leave that information down in the comments. Join my Discord if you want to chat about it. Links in the description. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.